America. We were living in the East by the Nile River, living in luxury, enjoying freedom, justice, and equality. We wore silken robes and slippers of gold. We were the wealthiest and the wisest people, I'm told. Now we are the poorest of the poor. Nobody wants us at their door. So my friend, it's easy to tell, white man heaven is a black man hell.
Keep the call, y'all. It's easy to tell. White man heaven is a black man hell.
So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that Master Farad Muhammad said 6 words to us, and these were the 6 most powerful words that he spoke. He said, accept your own and be yourself. Accept your own. The Caucasians who brought our fathers into slavery desired to take us away from our own people, our own culture, our own religion, our own God, our own language. So we have grown up in America away from our own mind, away from our own selves, and so we have been actually indoctrinated with an alien mentality.
10,000 fearless men, because we're going to have to challenge the things that are destroying our community. So this ain't no punk time. This ain't no temple time, mosque time, or church time. All the singing and shouting and preaching is over. Get in them streets now, block by block. We're going to have to clean it up. The airwaves is not enough. The television screen is not enough. You got to put boots on the ground who are trained and are willing to make the sacrifice of life itself to see our community made a decent place to live.
Attention. Drill.
Soldiering is a part of the Nation of Islam, and it readies all of us to obey the commands of God. Now some will ask, well, why military drill? Because this is what produces the camaraderie.
Facebook and Instagram thought that they could ban the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
But in reality, they can't, because he already lives in us and millions of others.
قل أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين.
In the name of Allah, Master Fard Muhammad, the one true and living God to whom praise is due forever, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is his messenger. Peace, family, and welcome back to another wonderful episode of WHID-FM. WHID-FM is your personal platform where those of us striving to follow the life-giving and life-saving teachings of the most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, as given to us by his premier pupil, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, gather right here in this virtual meeting place to answer that most critical question: what has Islam done for me? It is Sunday, August 11th, and at this time, we're going to turn it over to that dynamic co-host of WHID-FM, our sister, Janine Muhammad, who is a superstar student here in the ministry at Muhammad Mosque number 6, under the leadership of our beloved brother, Student Imam Abdul Salam Muhammad. Sister Janine.
Assalamu alaikum, family, and thank you again for joining us for another wonderful episode of WHID-FM, What Has Islam Done for Me? Where we hear the stories from our various guests about what Islam has done and continuing to do for them. I'm going to introduce our guest tonight, who is Brother Student Minister Corey Muhammad out of Muhammad Mosque number 36 in Charlotte, North Carolina, where he is also a native. Brother Student Minister Corey has been a registered member of the Nation of Islam for over 30 years. He's a devoted husband to Sister Angel Muhammad, a father, and a grandfather. Brother Corey has served in various posts at Muhammad Mosque number 36, including student lieutenant and student assistant minister for 2 decades before being asked to serve as the student minister of Muhammad Mosque number 36 in April of 2013. Brother Corey has represented the teachings on various radio interviews, TV interviews, in churches, and he has spoken in college classrooms and campuses, and serves as a founding board member of the Mecklenburg Council of Elders. He has 26 years experience in training and developing people, and has been successfully self-employed for the last 25 years. Brother Corey is a dedicated lifelong student and is passionate about helping others help themselves with the life-giving teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, given to us by his premier pupil, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. One of his favorite quotes is, "He who gives you the diameter of your knowledge prescribes the circumference of your activities." That timely quote was coined by the Honorable Brother Minister Louis Farrakhan. So we'd like to welcome Student Minister Corey on the show tonight. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum salam, sister.
We thank you for having us on this show today, and I am going to get us started on our first round of questions. Now, my first question for you, we do always like to get a background on our guests on what drew them to the teachings. So can you tell us, do you remember when you first heard the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad? And what made you say that not only do I love what I hear, but I want to be a part?
Yes, ma'am. Let me first open in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, who came in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, to whom praise is forever due. And in the name of his messenger, Messiah, now exalted Christ, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and in the name of the one we see doing the work of Jesus in our midst, Messiah in our midst, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is in their names. I greet you all in peace, and I thank you. Thank Brother Donald, and thank everyone that's involved with this podcast for the opportunity to come on and share tonight a testimonial. And you asked, what was it that attracted me? Well, I can remember because my father was a member of the Nation of Islam, as well as my grandmother. Now, my grandmother passed when I was an arm baby. I wasn't even quite a year old. And by the time I grew up and came along, my father was in the Nation, but I didn't grow up in the mosque. As things would unfold, my father wasn't active by the time I was born. However, some of the albums back then from the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, some of the books, my mother would share those things with me. And if she wasn't a registered member of the Nation of Islam, but again, we had some of that. So she would talk about the teaching. She would share that. And I remember being a little boy looking at the album, The Judgment with the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And in truth, in my mind, I was saying it looked a little different, as a child looking at that. and even looking through some of the books that we had here. So I had a desire to want to find out more. And in my earlier years, we didn't really go to church. We didn't grow up or come up in church, but my grandfather would take us to church like on Easter and things like that. We grew up in the 70s, late 70s, around the stereo, listening to Imam Warathuddin on the radio around that time. And so by the time I became a teenager, 14, 15, my mother would be looking at Minister Farrakhan, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and I would be going outside to go play, but I would just see and kind of notice that voice. And then it was when I was around 18, almost 19 years old, I was out and I received a flyer that one of the ministers was coming in. It was actually Dr. Abdul Alim Muhammad was coming in to speak at a church. That was during the time of the Dope Busters. And I attended that. I loved what I heard. Went out to the mosque shortly thereafter. And that's how it all started. Been coming to the mosque ever since then.
Praise be to Allah. Now, a lot of people hear the teachings. They may even join up with the teachings. But we know anytime that you try to start or continue in your journey towards God, there's always trials of things that can come your way. So can you tell us what made you so consistent in staying in the teachings? Because some people start their journey to, God, and then they may get, something along the way, getting sidetracked. So what has gotten you or made you consistent?
In the book of Matthew, there's a parable that's given that Jesus talks about the parable of the sower and the seed. And he speaks about how when the seed is being dropped, sometimes it'll be on firm ground, but then sometimes it may grow and the cares of the world will choke it out. And he was given a parable that would help us relate how it is when we accept faith. So I wouldn't be able to say that, hey, look, everything was all rosy, because once we accept a teaching, that means we're accepting to change something in our lives. But if I had to answer, one of the things that helped me be consistent is I felt like it was a truth. And on top of that, even though I didn't understand everything that was being said, but the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was like a father to me. And I loved the minister for how he was standing up, for what he was saying, and the way in which he was saying it, the manner he was saying it in. So one of the things that kept me around was, yes, I love the truth, but I love the minister. And through that, loving to hear him, he fed a part of me that needed to be fed. He gave me a father type figure. And that's one of the things I think that I know that helped me in my being able to strive to stay consistent. And I've been blessed to be a, consistent, active member of the Nation of Islam for all of that time. Not saying anything for anyone that may have challenges that come up. But that's what kept me going. My love for the minister and what he was doing for me and feeding me and helping me be able to become a better version of myself.
Praise be to Allah. Now, I want to get into really your journey in Islam. Now, you said in your bio that you've been blessed to be self-employed for the last 25 years. Can you tell us what field you're in and what has made you successful in being self-employed? Because we know we're taught to do for self, but a lot of people struggle to figure out what it is they want to do and just do for self. They have a hard time doing that because they may feel they don't know. So what has made you successful in being self-employed for 25 years?
Dear sister, one of the great things about this is we hear terms like do for self, and as we grow in our understanding, and I'm not saying I have all the understanding of that, but at one point I just thought that meant individually. But really the self is individual, but it's also collective. I would always hear that coming into the mosque, do for self. And then now many of us here are suffer the consequences. And so for me, my field, when I was 28 years old, I was at that time a single father, and I was introduced to a company that does legal services and identity theft protection. And really, I liked what I saw, and it allowed me to be able to have the discipline to go along that road. And I didn't start out doing for self. I started out, like the minister said, stealing away. Now, I didn't do it as the perfect plan that he gave. I might have went into doing for self a little premature, a little earlier than I should have. But the desire, especially for those of us looking at this that are believers in the nation, the minister taught us something called steal away, and told us that even if we're not in position, now I'm paraphrasing here, to just leave employment, if that's our desire to do that, then at that time we were working on customers and putting together enough customers to, the goal was to eventually be able to steal away and do for self. And so the field that I've been in for quite some time, over 25 years, it's not really the legal service. It's not really the identity theft protection. It's really working with people. That's what I like to do. That's what I like, helping others and helping be a student, as well as in some cases, be a teacher. So all of that kind of culminated in the desire to strive. Now, there's been ups and downs. You know, there's been ups and downs. Anytime any of us are going to do anything of value, how does the minister put it? He says anything of value has a difficulty factor attached to it. And so the main thing was just having a goal of what I was looking for and then striving to move forward in that. And one other thing I'll share on that, one of the biggest things that's been a help, and I would say this for any other brothers that know what I'm talking about. See, the final call, when we get out there with the final call paper, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, now the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, put us in suits and bow ties and had us going to go talk to the people. Well, a lot of times there's rejection that comes with that. I mean, whether we going door to door, or whether we going on the corners or doing a combination of both, you have a lot of people that can be quite mean, other than nice, people that just don't understand. But because of getting that rejection when I got in business, and this is for anyone that would get in any kind of business, when you're dealing with people, dealing with rejection, dealing with things that's going to test your resolve, the going out and being able to take rejection and keep on moving forward because of what I felt like what we were doing and what I was doing with the final call is the right thing to do. That discipline and that being able to handle rejection just carried right over into the business that I have.
Praise be to Allah. And my next question before I turn it over to Brother West, along with the lines of doing for self, we have a lot of our people who just struggle to talk to people, struggle to trust people. And, you know, we have that barrier because of trauma and experiences. So have you struggled with that? And if so, how do you get over, or what would you advise someone to do to get over just that hump of just talking to people and engaging people to do for self?
Well, the first thing is for those of us that are members of the Nation of Islam, or even if we're not, but I want to use the example if we're members of the nation. See, all the time, we have the kind of religion, when I was taught that Islam is not really a religion per se, it's a way of life. And we have to accept it, not just the religion, but we've accepted the mission, or should be accepting the mission that comes along with it. And so we call it soldiering or fishing. The whole point I'm making is that this is teaching us how to open up our mouths and invite someone to come out and hear the teachings, or invite someone to give them a paper, give them the final call, encourage them to get that paper. And so when we're moving our mouth in that direction, because that's the number one business we're in, the business of people, it was fear on what someone's going to say doing that. There's fear on whether someone was going to reject. So again, to go back, what's helped to be able to talk to someone you don't know is practice. And so if we're practicing in the world, as I was just mentioning with soldiering, with the final call, or even invite, if we're a sister, or may not go out physically, but when we learn to invite, a lot of people don't invite because there's that fear there. But again, the work helps remove the fear. And even when there is fear, we have to challenge that and keep on until what was once fearful becomes unfearful. The problem is too many people abort the path before getting a little more comfortable with inviting someone or saying something to someone or doing something we normally wouldn't do. For me, that's been a help too. Being able to just take what we have, what we've been given, and invite and have others to want to see it. And then when we can do that, we can do it in other arenas also.
Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. Now, one more question.
Before you go, I just want to say it's so good to see the youth helping to head up, podcasts like this. I saw Brother West, seeing yourself, and all the others, whomever else may help with this. A lot of us, and not that I'm old, I don't even want to come off like I'm old like that, but it is good to see young people taking charge and and moving forward with this invincible truth.
Praise be to Allah. Yes, sir. We just are helping in a big mission that we have. So everybody got to play a part in the mission.
Yes, ma'am.
Praise be to Allah. Now, I want to change gears just a little bit. So, can you tell really our audience, because a lot of people may feel that in this day and time they really don't know what's going on. Some people may say, man, since 2020 the world has been upside down. So, how has Islam prepared you for this time that we're living in, and what advice would you have for people who may feel like, man, I'm feeling a little uneasy?
Well, there's a prayer that we have, and that prayer is called the anxiety prayer. And we say, I seek refuge from anxiety and grief, from lack of strength, from laziness, from cowardice, from godliness, from being overpowered by debt and the oppression of men. And then there's more to that prayer. But the point is, yes, there's a lot happening. There's a lot that's going on. Here's the beauty of beginning to study scripture. And I know some of us looking at this may be in the scripture, some may not be. But as we begin to understand and read scripture from the view and from the filter of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, now the scripture begins to make sense. When it's in the book of Matthew saying wars and rumor of wars, and nation rising against nation, brother rising against brother, we see those things going on. So when we see that going on, yes, on a global scale, it can help us be able to be a little uneasy. But what I've always found, and what we continue to find solace in, is that when we see all these things going on, know that many of us go to the movies and we'll go see and go view this or go view that. But everything that's happening right now is all according to a plan that Almighty God has, that Allah has, and we get to play a part in this movie, in this plan. So yes, we're going to have the ups and downs. What's going to help us in this time is, what are we listening to? What are our associations? See, this is a good reason why it's so good to listen to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, hear what he's saying, find ourselves in the right environment, the right surroundings, because as one world goes out, another world comes in. Yes, it's a challenging time, a trying time, but holding on, and what we're listening to would help us become wise. And instead of being afraid of the times, we begin to understand the times. And fear, they say, is false evidence appearing real. But when we learn how to research a little more and then begin to know certain things, then fear goes out when knowledge comes in. So the main point to answer that is striving in this day and time to get as much knowledge of the time that we in. And I don't know no better place to get it than by watching the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and listening to what he's sharing and listening and to the teachings and writing that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave us.
Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. Thank you for that. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Brother Wes, who has some questions for you, Brother Wes.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, sir. It's great to have you on.
Great to be on, brother.
Yes, sir. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and that Muhammad is his messenger. And I believe I just greeted you. Yes, sir. So my first question for you is, as a member of the Nation of Islam and an FOI for the past 30 years, what do you believe are some skills that every FOI should possess or work towards achieving?
Well, from some of those skills, qualities as well. See, we're in the kind of work that requires us to work on our character, to work on our integrity, to work on being dependable, to work on being able to be tolerant with our people, with our people's misunderstanding of what it is that we believe, what it is that we do. To be honest, these are all characteristics, but to go to some of the skills that we would need, well, one of the skills in this day and time is the skill of being able to learn how to communicate. And when I say how to communicate in a way that can help us be able to drive people, again, to hear the minister, drive people to listen, drive people to point them in a direction. So one of the skills, communication, a skill on being able to, not only that, but being able to know how to see someone and see our people and have the character of humility enough to not think that we are better than they are, so that we keep ourselves in a certain mindset, and the mindset of a redeemer, as one of the study guys, 13, I believe it is, The Price of Redemption. But we learn these things. See, skills, remember something, skill is something that we can learn. A lot of times people will see if a plumber's, then he's learned the skills of plumbing or learned that trade. You know, if someone has learned another kind of trade, most of them don't just know it automatically, they get it over time. So any skills that we feel like we don't know, every day through activity and doing that, we can begin to get better and develop in whatever skill we feel like we may be deficient in. But one of the best ones to know right now is the skill of communication.
Yes, sir. Communication is definitely important in this day and age. And I next wanted to know, how does it feel to soldier in the same city where you grew up?
Yeah, it's a beautiful feeling, because sometimes we run into, Charlotte is a transit city. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, again, by the way, and for those that may be viewing this, and Charlotte is one of the most transient cities in the country. There's a lot of new people that's coming all the time. And so a lot of us that are native Charlotteans, I've seen the cities change a lot over the years. But to soldier in a city that I came up in, here's the beauty of it, is when I run into someone that I hadn't seen in a long time, maybe someone I went to high school with, or even went to junior high, I guess they call it middle school now. So that's one of the benefits, going back to some of the same neighborhoods that I grew up in, and then being able to remember growing up there and go back to those same areas and either knock on doors or attend an event in those areas. That's one of the strongest benefits, is that sometimes we don't know, we may encourage someone else just as we're being encouraged. When someone see that we still sticking with something. I ran into someone recently that remembered when I joined the mosque, and they said, man, you still doing that. You still on it. You still striving to do that. And so benefit to me is I can see the change in the city, but also I can run into people that I used to know, and they can see, not that I was bad before I came into the mosque, but they can just see the change. And more importantly, I can see some of the ones that I can share this with and help change them.
Yes, sir. That sounds like a wonderful feeling indeed. And I next wanted to ask you if you can share the level of brotherhood that exists among the FOI. I was just at the Savior store here in Baltimore yesterday, and I know it's such a wonderful feeling to be amongst the men, whether you're soldiering or just studying at the mosque. So I wanted to know if you can share how it feels to be a part of the nation, and also any memorable experiences that you may have.
Oh, yes, brother. You know, when I first came in the Nation of Islam, the minister was on tours. He was doing tours in different parts of the country. And so we would jump in cars and drive, whether it was 5 hours away or 6 hours or 8 hours away or whatever the distance was. We just go to these different places. And in that time, when you're spending that time and with your brothers, and then we go on with the goal of securing the minister or helping to get more people to come out and hear the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, the brotherhood, you know, that's something that when we look at how this teaching is set up, we have the FOI, the fruit of Islam, and brotherhood is expressed there. It's a good feeling when I can pick up the phone, talk to someone, you know, be able to spend time, be able to deal with another male that is understanding of what it is that you may be going through, or what it is that I may be going through. So the brotherhood is thick. You just mentioned the Young Saviors tour, and I haven't had a chance to see many clips, but we were one of the cities too, by the grace of Allah, that had that, and to see all the brothers coming together. See, it doesn't matter if we came from a different city in the FOI, in the Nation of Islam, if we come from a different state. See, we all under that one brotherhood, and we know, brother, in order to be brothers, that means we have the same father. And so it's a good feeling. It's really good to be a part of something. I ain't gonna say we perfect, but it's good to be a part of something that in its origin, it's perfect. It's just that all of us aren't perfect, but striving for perfection. So yes, to be a part of the brotherhood, man, that's a beautiful thing.
Yes, sir, it is indeed. And were there any memorable experiences you've had in your journey as an FOI?
Yes, sir. There's been quite a few. One of them was I was 19 years old. No, actually, this would have been 20. And the minister, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, spoke. No, it was in April, pardon me, April of 1990. Some of us have seen the speech, the added up speech that was in Georgia, at the Georgia Dome, I believe it was. And one of my most memorable experiences at that time, I wasn't quite 20 yet. I was 19, but that was the first time that I met the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And the way that I met him was there was a people all outside the Georgia Dome where that was. And the final call staff, it was a brother that was in charge of that, and they needed to get some filming done. And I guess he was told just, get X amount of brothers. And so I was one of the ones that ended up being a part of that, helping to do some of the filming. And at some point we ended up going up to the room where the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was, and we met him. That was in April of 1990. And then another memorable experience is just 2 months later, in June of 1990, the minister spoke here in Charlotte. And I was one of the two brothers, me and another brother, Brother Frank Muhammad, that lives here in Charlotte. We were asked to be in the room while the minister was out speaking, to be security in the room while he was out speaking. And so again, I met him again. So within 2 months' time, at 19 years old, not even quite 20, I had met the minister twice. And that was two of my most memorable moments in the nation.
Yes, sir. That's absolutely wonderful, especially to be so early in your journey as an FOI. Indeed.
Yes, sir.
And yes, sir. Next, I was curious to know, what was your first experience like when, I would say, interacting with your first piece of the teachings, such as the first time you read Message to the Black Man, or the first time you read a Final Call, or listened to a lecture? How did that feel to really be in a piece of our teachings from our nation?
For me, it was like, it was like this, and I'm trying to give the best answer I can to that. When someone's thirsty, you can have a thirst that, when you drink and that thirst gets quenched. And so when I first got Message to the Black Man, and before getting to the Message to the Black Man, before I came to the mosque, I would see brothers out with the paper, the Final Call paper. I mean, I didn't get it all the time because I didn't see people all the time, but whenever I'd see them, I'd get it. And for me, it was like this thirst to want to find out more, to read it and find out more and to find out more. So that's what it was like for me getting that. It was like it was like a thirst that wasn't able to be quenched. It was watered every time I saw, but I wanted more and wanted more and wanted more and wanted more. So that's what it was like for me. And hopefully that answered what you was asking me.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And next, I wanted to know if you can tell us a little bit about your work with the Mecklenburg Council of Elders and how you became a member of that organization.
Yes, sir. Well, what we in the Nation of Islam, in the mosque, we hadn't been called to do the work and stay in the mosque only. The mosque has a great role. It's like we pull into it. It's like the hospital, so to speak. We getting the teachings there. We getting fuel there. Those calls. I live in Charlotte, NASCAR. Now, I'm not really a NASCAR fan, but there may be something to look at this. I ain't quite been able to put my arm around watching cars go around the track, a lot of times like that. But anyway, it's pretty big. But when those cars going around the track, sometimes they got to pull in to the pit stop and they get some work done to them so they can get right back on the track again. And so that's what it's been like for me being here, the experiences that we go through. It's been like that this teaching has put me in a position where I wanted to get more, get excited about what I heard, and then go out and share more. And so it fuels us up. It fuels us up to be able to go right back out and do that. And ask the last part of that question again. I want to make sure I get it because it was something in that question is a point I wanted to bring up. Ask the last part of that question you were giving me.
Yes, sir. I was asking how you became a member of that organization.
Right. And so since we're not called only to the mosque, it's good to do work in the community, and continue to work in the community, because we're not just staying in the four wheels of the mosque, but the mosque is like the launching pad for us, So the community here in Charlotte, there's an organization that deals with criminal justice. It deals with expungement. And the sister that happens to head it up was involved. Now, she's not a registered member of the Nation of Islam, but she was involved with the Millions More movement. Some of us may remember that the 10-year anniversary of the Million Man March was called, it was the Millions More movement that was done back in 2005. And it just so happens this sister is heading up an organization. When she first started, I was one of the ones that she reached out to. And the whole goal was, what can we do to help our young people, to help them be able to avoid the penal system, avoid and any that had anything to do with the penal system. What can we do to help them after that? So the Mecklenburg Council of Elders deals with expungement. We work in conjunction with other attorneys that volunteer their time. So that's one of the things that's done there. Also, knowing your rights, helping the youth, knowing young people when we're dealing with the police, knowing different things to do and what not to do. So knowing your rights is a component of it. There's also different classes. There's all-foot anger management. But that's how I got associated, knowing that sister. She asked me, and that was about close to 9 years ago. And it's one of the community organizations that I work with, and not just work with, but I serve on the board on. And to me, it's just an extension of what we are doing and what we are supposed to do as Muslims in the Nation of Islam. It's an extension of that. So that's one of the organizations I like to help, because there's been certain ones that's been helped. Because when you've got a criminal record and you can't get housing and you can't qualify for certain things, there are some charges that are able to be expunged. And we as an organization have been able to help a lot of people along those lines.
Yes, sir. That sounds like a wonderful service for the community. And my next question before I turn it back over to Sister Janine, I was curious if you set a goal for yourself when you first joined the Nation. I know that you've been in the Nation for at least 30 years, I believe, and have become a student minister and have served in various positions since joining. So do you believe that if you did set a goal, you walked into that version of yourself, or are you still on that path?
Oh, brother, I'm still on that path. I love to be able to say I set a goal to do AB, but when I first came in the Nation, I didn't really set a goal. I just was taught to hear and obey. And I might not been all the way to 100% best example of that. So I didn't come in with a goal. Matter of fact, I didn't come in and think that I would be in the ministry. That's not something that I was seeking. I wasn't seeking to help in the lieutenancy. And I've been blessed to help in, some other areas, just like some of us is looking at this, have done some parts and helping, but I didn't have a goal. It'd probably better if I said I did, but no, I was 19 years old, married early. And I didn't have a particular goal that I was looking for. I just liked what I heard, got involved, and just got put into the work and involved myself in the work. But no, I didn't have any goal at that time. The only goal I had was just to help the minister and help him by helping myself and help with the work that was given to us to do.
Yes, sir. Well, all praises be to Allah, because it definitely seems like you've managed to still get a lot done within your time being in the Nation so far. Praise be to Allah.
Yes, sir. And let me say something with that, Brother West, too, because some of us will look at that and say, what about there's a lot of ups and downs in anything that we do. So I love to say it's been all roses and all of that, but that's just, and I know a lot of us may know that it's just not the case. I would just say to all of us, remember, if the minister said anything of value or nothing, if we take anything that has any value to it, there's always a difficulty factor attached. So whatever it is we're going to set our eyes on, whatever it is that we're going to do. Now, later in my life, I begin to become a little more goal oriented. And if we look at that word goal, the GOAL, the two first letters in that is go. Because when we give ourselves a certain goal, and then we can move towards it, it helps us go into motion. Later on, I became a little more goal oriented, but in the beginning, no goal for a position, no goal for any of that, just help. And then certain opportunities open themselves up.
Yes, sir. That's definitely a good point. And with that, we'll turn it back over to you, Sister Janine.
Thank you, Brother West. Student Minister Corey, you actually led me into my next question, because I'm always curious when I hear different student ministers or brothers and sisters on a ministry staff. They say, well, I didn't ask to be on a ministry, So I'm curious, how did you find yourself on a ministry staff? Do you remember how that happened?
Yes, my brother, who was my first minister in the Nation of Islam, and he's still around, by the way. Brother Lee Muhammad, or student minister Lee Muhammad, he was my first minister when I came into the mosque, and I didn't start out right away in the ministry. And I don't even remember exactly how all of it happened. I just know at some point I became a part of the ministry class, one of his ministers back then, and would help with the Friday night study circles, and then would help with being in the lineup. So I don't even really remember him saying, I'm sure it happened, but I don't remember at what point did he actually ask me to do that. But that's how it came down. I kind of found myself in that after a period of time being asked to be a part of that staff, being a part of that staff, and then it kind of evolved from there.
Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. Now, can you tell us, being on a ministry staff, what do you think you've learned, anything that helped you in a ministry staff along the way? What has Islam taught you about being on a ministry staff and helping out people?
Well, the word minister means to serve. And so when we think about a staff and being a part of it, it's a combination of things that's helped. One of the things is I always wanted to be the kind of brother that would be studious. Now, the minister told us how he studied 8-9 hours a day. I didn't do that, but I found myself listening to a lot of the messages, just like a lot of us do now. Some of our brothers and sisters looking at this that may not be registered members of the Nation of Islam. We know when we go to different chats and we hear ministers' clips and reels, we see all our people comment, all kind of people comment and loving what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is saying. And so what happened for me is, again, is being a part of the staff, I liked what I was hearing. And because I liked what I was hearing, I wanted others to be able to hear it. And at some point, I was asked, "Hey, would you come and do this? And would you help in this arena?" And from there, again, it not only did it evolve from there, but it just helped me be able to, as a part of the staff, realize that we got a huge work to do. And there's different areas to do it in. This is just one of the areas to do it in, is to take the message and help others hear it, direct them to the minister, direct them to the paper, because the paper speaks and goes into so many hands we may not go into. So in answering that, the staff has been being a part of that's been helpful. It's been wonderful. But one of the best things that helped me along that was studying and watching the minister and see how he does and what he does, and then strive to be an example.
Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. Now, another question as far as being on a ministry staff, you may have a lot of people that say, I got trouble now. I need money now. I got issues now. What do you usually tell those people? And what would you say Islam can give people who will say, well, I got issues right now. How can Islam help me?
Well, I mean, I have issues. When I accepted this, I had issues. Hey, still today, sometimes I have issues there. But when you ask the question, we have people sometimes that say, well, look, I got some things that need to be done right now. What can be done? Well, one of the first things is I got to recognize. See, in order to change something, I've got to know where I'm at. And not only know where I'm at, but then be willing to want to make a change. And so there's a saying, I don't remember exactly how the whole saying goes, but they say it's hard to teach someone that has an empty stomach. And so, yes, we may offer something. I may want to offer something to someone to address an immediate need. But anytime there's a long-term need, anything that's going to be long-term change, I can't use as an example that I got something I need to do now. I got issues happening now. How are you going to help me right now? Well, the way I'm going to help you right now may be something that's looks small, but the long term is going to be the same way it was for me, because I had issues when I started, but I had a desire to want to see something different, to want to change. And that's where it all starts at. It's that desire, and so I got immediate circumstances, but the only way I'm going to change my immediate circumstances is what I'm doing right now. What am I doing today to change that? And over a period of time, it changes, but it all starts with desire. So anyone, and I run into people like that quite a bit. And sometimes some of us won't change, and some of us want attention. We not won't change at that time. But when the time comes, we'll be willing to do what it takes to get it.
That's right. Yes, sir. And my next question, I'm going to shift gears again before I turn it over to Brother Wesley for some questions. But, a lot of us as Black people, we struggle with relationships. We're number one in divorce. We're number one in women who've never gotten married. And we struggle just the relationship between male and female. So, being married for so long, how has Islam helped you understand love and the proper way to be in a relationship?
Oh, sister, you mentioned something. Remember, I said earlier I was talking about learning practice. Now, I need
Yes,
to
sir.
go back and clarify something. I got married at a young age
Mhm.
to the mother of my children, but that's not who I currently have been married. This coming up August 31st will be 7 years.
Praise be to Allah.
Yeah, 7 years. And so in that time, I realized that, there's things that's helped me grow. So in order to have success, we look at male and female relationships. Now, first, let's go back, for our guests and those that are listening. Many of us know that we were taught there's 3 sciences that the Caucasian, that the white man never wanted us to understand and know. And not necessarily in this order, but one of them is the science of business, one of them is the science of warfare, and another is the science of mating.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a lot of relationship issues because we really don't understand what our value is. We don't understand who we are. See, a lot of times as men, we may look at women as, what they look like and look at them, measure them by what their body looks like and different numbers and what the ideal was fed to us from Hollywood and what a good man is, and what's fed from Hollywood or other things that we may take as examples on what a good woman is or what a good man is. See, it's hard for me to be in a relationship that can last. In order for it to be a good relationship, I've got to first know about myself, hopefully study myself. So one thing, while I'm still learning this and practicing this, because yes, there's issues with marriage, but remember, we've been taught when people get together, even when they marry, they're not married then. According to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he said, when you look at ED and put married on it, that's like it's already done, an act is done. But no, that's something that's being worked on, something that's growing. So I can come back to me and says, well, I had to go back and examine self, analyze. A lot of us as men, when you look at, and I'm not going to say this is all of it, but sometimes in relationships, men, we may not be as communicative as we need to be. We may have had different issues that, we had to work on. So what's one of the things that's helping me in my current marriage is I had to go to work and be willing to work on self-improvement instead of them improvement, those improvement, them people improvement. No, had to work on self-improvement. So a lot of these relationship issues, it started out wrong. And how things start a long time can be what it'll be long term. If it started out as two people just kind of meeting each other and this certain physical desire was there without even doing anything else, without knowing about the person and who the person is. That's why we have a certain process in the Nation of Islam, courtship process. Now, some of us can sometimes go through that and still have issues. But the main point I'm saying is that relationship, it takes two, as they say, but it also takes that one working on themselves, being the best version of themselves so that we can have a relationship. Ship mean we going somewhere. If I'm in a relationship and it ain't even going anywhere, we don't even know we're going. A ship is a way of communication. So how am I relating? And it so happens right now there's another study guide. And I know some that are looking at this may not be members of the Nation of Islam. Many that will look at this will be. But there's a study guide the minister have, study guide 9, our intimate relationship with Rabbi Al-Amin.
Mm-hmm.
And so as we are studying that, I got to get to know me, because a lot of these male-female relationship issues is done through social engineering, but a lot of it also is just us not even knowing our own self. And as we begin to know self better, then we'll know what we can be better compatible with.
Praise be to Allah. Wonderful response. Thank you for that, sir.
Praise
and
be.
At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Brother Wesley, who has some questions for you. Has a couple of questions for you, Brother Wesley.
Yes, ma'am. In the name of Allah, the beneficent, the merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. Assalamu alaikum, my brother.
Wa alaikum salam, Brother Wesley.
Yes, sir. I just have a couple questions for you. I've been enjoying the conversation. So some of the questions that I had have already been answered as well. So I just wanted to ask you two things here. One is really a twofold question. Is what does being patient with yourself mean? And what encouragement would you give the youth specifically about being patient with themselves as they're in their journey of coming to Islam or in Islam, but us in general as a nation? What encouragement would you give us about being patient with ourselves?
One of the things is first look at patience and what is patience and how do we get impatient? Because the Quran says that man is created in haste. See, impatience is something that for some of us, for a lot is somewhat has some natural to it. Especially look at this in the society we're in right now. We live in a society that wants a lot of instant gratification. Now, here's someone that has a microwave. Now, of course, we shouldn't be using microwave ovens, but just stay with this example for a moment. So someone's going to put some in the microwave, going to cook it quicker and going to wait for it. Like, man, it's not going fast enough. We may go look at a movie and we want to get in good shape. We'll go see a movie in an hour and a half or an hour and 45 minutes. The person that maybe lost a boxing match or lost a fight, they'll go through in an hour and 45 minutes this metamorphosis. They'll go through all of this. And at the end, they'll win. I'm just thinking right now, like in some of the Creed movies or other Rocky movies and things that we saw, or even other movies like that. So this whole society has been fed on the instant gratification, thinking that our life, if the movie did it in an hour and 45 minutes, then surely I ought to be able to be the perfect Muslim in an hour and 45 minutes, or in 2 days, or in 3 days, or a month, or whatever. But it just doesn't work like that. So patience is the ability to be able to do it without complaint. So first I got to know that going into something, it's going to take time. And as I'm saying this, I'm listening to my own self, because there's been times when I look and be like, okay, I was a little impatient there. Now I got to work on that. But patience is something that has to be worked on. And the way it's worked on is over time, through time. So the new believer or the young believer that comes in, being patient with ourselves, thinking we may sometimes have a slip up in a fall, but as long as we don't stay down. See, one of the ways to help with our patience, if we are, let's say, striving to be stronger, again, look at our associations. Who are we associating with? Because there's a such thing as influence. And if I've got people around me striving to do good, striving to be good, and they're around me, and that's who I'm being influenced by, then that influence is going to help me. See, the influence is going to be either positive or negative. If I've got examples of people that I can look at, this is why as a young believer, and when I say young, any of us, and anything is good, that we've got someone else that we look up to, or someone else that we talk to, because probably whatever we're dealing with that we've been impatient with within ourselves, someone else has probably already dealt with that. And if we're humble enough to hear what they're going to say and what they could share with us, then they could perhaps help us in a moment when we find ourselves being impatient. Because normally when we're impatient like that is when we make mistakes. But patience has to be learned. And again, those are some of the things that I would say around that. I think you may have had another question in that, but go ahead, brother. Pardon me, I just need to take a quick sip.
Take your time, brother. You answered both parts of that in what you shared, and I appreciate it so much as well. The next question that I do have is, how do you go about getting your recharge or pouring back into yourself? Being in the post that you are pouring into many others, those that are guests coming in, and also the those that you're over as well, to be able to pass over. How do you go about getting that recharge for yourself?
Yeah, one of the things that I like to do, believe it or not, as simple as working out or taking a walk. I like to look at nature. Now, I'm not necessarily the person that's going to be hiking up the mountains and all of those different things yet, but sometimes a simple walk, sometimes nature, observing nature, that's one of the things that helps recharge me. Yes. The reading that we have, reading and listening to the minister, all these are things that help recharge. The main point I was going to say for me, what recharges is just taking a step back sometimes and reflecting, taking a step sometimes and walking. Another thing that's therapeutic for me that helps as a release is writing. I'm one of the brothers, I do a lot of journaling. I've got journals, I'll journal things down. Now I've been slacking a little bit on that some, but I've got quite a few different times, and it's a release for me, because if I got a whole lot in my mind, then when I'm putting it on paper, it helps me be able to sort it out. So different people got different ways that they get that. That's one of the ways. Of course, there's prayer. I don't want to minimize any of that, But those walks, nature. Hey, here's another thing. For me, what charges me up, now it's gonna sound a little different, but being around children, because of the innocence of them, the energy that they have, and all of that, I draw from that energy, and that helps charge me as well.
All praises due to Allah. Thank you for that response as well, because we definitely can learn from that as well. Just understanding the importance of looking at nature. It is peaceful, especially like a lot of people like to be around water. That helps them to be, get calmer and bring themselves down as well. So I appreciate.
Yes, sir. You mentioned something key, brother. A lot of times we have a lot. I mean, it's a lot that's happening now, and people are dealing with things, and not just me, but any of us that serve. I mean, we got mothers on here, we got parents, we got fathers, we got other different people, and we have a lot of responsibilities, and that pulls on us. And so what will, as I mentioned the example earlier, those cars going around the track and they pull into the pit stop. When we pull into that pit stop and get refueled by Allah's creation, refueled by what Allah has revealed, for me, that just gives me that gas and helps me out and, help me get on that track and go a few more laps before I need to pull in again and get some more recharging.
Yes, sir. All praises due to Allah. We do have a question here from Sister Cynthia. She asks, how does the knowledge of what you learn in FOI class make you good husbands, fathers, and productive and fearless men?
Well, let's look at this. One day I was sitting and I was thinking, and I was thinking about Master Fard Muhammad setting up these two classes. And to the best of my ability, I try to just look and say, well, what is it that he already is seeing that these classes will produce? Because we're taught that he didn't come to make us followers, but to make us into gods. And so the class, there's aspects of the class, what can help make us good husbands? Well, first, many of us, and me included, didn't have a father figure in the home. Didn't see that. So we can get in the class, and even in the Quran, when it tells us, hey, men are maintainers of women. So some things, I won't go into everything, of course, is talked about in fruit class, but when we listen and we read like what the Quran has, and men are being made into maintainers, understanding what a father is, a father that's going to help my seed and move further along. And even if it ain't my seed, as an uncle, be able to impart something to a young person to help them move far further along. These are all things that in a class like that, this men, and we taught that, hey, Muhammad makes men. And then we get into what it means to be a provider, what it means to be a maintainer, not just physically in terms of financially, but what that means on all the different levels. There's certain aspects of the class that are there to give us, and we can't be, we're taught to be productive. So there's even certain aspects, as a saying we used to say all the time, make it happen. Now, sometimes we say that saying, and but I learned to say that, have that saying as a way to understand, eliminate excuses, overcome obstacles, get rid of the excuses there. So, the knowledge from what's given in the class, and not one particular class. So whether it's a brother's class or a sister's class, remember, this class is something that's ongoing. None of us have graduated that I know of, other than the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and we see his top student, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So the class is the process. So the knowledge of what I'm learning in that class is helping me become a better husband. See, in FOI class, as well as in the Friday nights, in the study, guys, in the whole study, because one part of the study is theory, as the minister mentions, the other part is practical application. But he tells us anytime we go on about self-improvement, it's 4 aspects to it: examining self, analyzing, correcting, and then what's called a quickening of the self-accusing spirit, the inner messenger in us that helps us know when we're doing right and wrong to do what is right. So a part of this class, these are some of the things that, we learn: providers, maintainers, all of that.
Yes, sir. All praises due to Allah. Thank you for those responses to my questions, as well as the question that was posed to us. We have a few other questions, but before we do so, I would like to turn our program over to Brother West for our station ID.
Yes, sir. Thank you. You are listening to WHID-FM. What is Islam done for me? We want to thank you for tuning in, because without you, there is no WHID-FM. If you have any suggestions please email us at WHID1919@gmail.com. Also, please subscribe to WHID-FM on YouTube and follow us on Facebook. And next week, our guest will be, inshallah, a very special guest speaker, Brother Tariq Muhammad, hailing from Muhammad Mosque number 78 in the great city of Jackson, Mississippi. So make sure you tune in for that wonderful episode. All praises be to Allah. And excuse me, Brother Corey, we have some questions that are starting to line up for you in the chat. So I'll start with one from Sister Latifa. She's asking, which surah from the Holy Quran do you draw on the most, and how does it fortify you in the Bible?
One of them that comes to mind, and it's a few, but one of them that comes to mind is Surah 55, Ar-Rahman, the Beneficent. And there's this repeated saying, it's said over and over again. It says, which of the bounties of your Lord do you deny? Now that's at least, it's in there at least 10 or 12 different times, that sequence, and there's probably more times than that, because the whole idea behind that is, to me, the way I'm understanding it, is helping the reader stay in the mind of gratitude, stay in the mind of humility. And so which of the favors of your Lord do you deny? 55, Surah 55 is one of them that comes to mind. It's others, but that's one of the ones that just comes to mind right away. Was that? So was it someone else? Okay, well, while we getting that, I mentioned Surah 55. I do want to lift up something else. Oh, yes, sir, I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. My apologies. My camera had turned off. But was there something else you wanted to add?
Oh, no, I was going to, also just share something. Surah 7. And Surah 7 is the elevated places. Al-Arif, the elevated places. And in this surah, we get some examples of different prophets. But it's, why are we even reading that? Well, in my opinion, one of the reasons why we're reading that is that we're seeing the struggles, and some of the chiefs of the people would laugh at this prophet or laugh at that prophet. But as we read that, it'll help us be able to say, well, if that messenger of God was able to sustain and go through what they went through, then this is an example for us to get into elevated places, an elevated mindset. And it just so happens Surah 70, because in Arabic, you don't read from left to right, you read from right to left. Not that I know Arabic, but my goal is to one day know a few little bit, but the goal is to understand that and learn it. But if we look at Surah 70, look at this, 70, but read that from right to left, it would be 07. So we got Surah 7, elevated places, Surah 7D, Lord of the ways of ascent. Both of them are dealing with rising up and taking our mindset up to, and our consciousness and our mentality up. So those are two other surahs. I mean, there's others, but that's something else that came to mind.
Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. Before I go to the next question that we have from Sister Latifa, again, I wanted to mention that we're having a special guest on for Afternotes. It will be Sister Zoya Musawwir. So make sure you tune in for that. And that'll be after this episode of WHID-FM has ended. Praise be to Allah. And our next question will be coming from, I believe this is Brother Horace this time. And he wants to know, what is your advice to an older brother just coming into the nation?
What advice? Something drew you in. And in the Twitter book, Twitter 2.0 book, the minister mentions how when we come into this and we do the work and continue to do it, our purpose and how we can contribute to that purpose will be revealed to us. So the advice I would give to someone that's older, remember this, we may be older, but we still have some talent and some gift that we could offer. So one of the first things I would say is be an example. Strive to be around a positive believers and as much as you can, but decide what are you going to do and what gift is it that you feel like you have that you want to offer to your nation, and let nothing or no one turn you from helping the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in this great mission. If we're younger, if we older, because sometimes we may be older and be like, well, what can I offer? Oh, you've got something. Or even if it's an advice on what not to do to someone else, maybe geared to do the same thing. That's one of the things that I would offer.
Sorry, I keep going on mute. Yes,
okay,
sir.
No worries, brother. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I believe we just had another question come in. This is from a user named Kono Tree, I believe, but they want to know, how do we use the Quran to enlighten our brothers and sisters, especially our people that are struggling with things such as drugs, alcohol, or gambling, things that are otherworldly that we're striving to get away from.
Well, I mean, if I go to someone, if I go to someone that's got things like that they're struggling with, I don't need to. It may be a little tough for me just to come just holding the Quran. Let's look at the example of the minister, how he does it. He'll take the word, and he'll take that word and turn it into where it becomes something that's comforted, something that becomes a healing for whoever it is that may be dealing with whatever it is that we're dealing with, just as all of us have some type struggle. So how can we use that? One of the things I would say in the beginning is our example. See, our example will speak a lot of times louder than what we may be saying, our example of what it is. So if I've accepted something that's cleaning me up, and that person that knew me when I wasn't cleaned up, or knew me when I wasn't doing this, or wasn't doing that, and see me now, to that example speaks a lot. And then if the example is there and they open, then we can begin to share more with them. But one of the best things to do is just get them out, get them in the environment, get them around, get them to the mosque, get them to where they can hear the teaching and see other examples of that. And in that, seeing other examples, that may perhaps give that person the desire and strength, even if it's just a little bit in the beginning, to want to get better. And as they want to get better, they can continue to get better from there by being in that right environment. So as we learn more about the Quran, yes, we'll be able to share more. But in the beginning, I would say, be the good example. If we know that person knows of it. If someone we don't know at all, then just be a brother or a sister in our actions and how we deal with that person. And again, that speaks a lot of times louder than any words we're saying.
Yes, sir. That's definitely wonderful. A wonderful answer indeed. And my next question.
I saw one other thing on that, but I saw alcohol and gambling and functions. These are all vices. And any of the vices that we have, oftentimes we'll put our attention on the addiction, but there's always something that the person is trying to escape from. And the more we can get in line with that and eliminate the reason that they want to escape from. I've got a close family member that I lost to, the drugs. Wasn't too long ago. And unfortunately, it was just particular pain that was not able to deal with. And, we talked, we did some things, but the best advice I would say on that is, again, strive to just continue to be an example and get that person around the environment that can help them.
Yes, sir. It's definitely another wonderful addition to that answer. And my next question for you, I wanted to ask, when you're not at the mosque or not helping other brothers and sisters on the streets of Charlotte, North Carolina, how do you relax and debrief? And I know you touched on this a little bit earlier, but if you had anything to add as well.
Oh, brother, whatever we do, when we look at a 91-year-old, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and look at all the work he continues to do. So I don't, as I look back, active, yes, busy, but there's so much more that I and others that hear this can do. But to answer your question, one of the things I like to do, hey, my wife and I may go out somewhere. We may go and spend some time together. Or I may, see a movie. For me, I like to see movies. I don't get a chance to see a whole lot of them, but I like to see a movie. It's kind of therapeutic for me, especially if it's something that is good that I want to see. So those are a couple of things that, that I do. I mentioned some things earlier, but those are some of the things. Spending time with loved ones. I got grandchildren now. Every time I say that, I'm thinking to myself, man, I got grandchildren. But I have grandchildren now, spending time with my grandchildren when I get a chance to see them. Now, that's some of the things I like to do outside of when I'm not, quote unquote, at the mosque or involved in community. And again, there's more I want to do on that end, but that's to answer your question. That's some of the things I like to do.
Yes, sir. That's wonderful. Great ways to relax and debrief, indeed. And my next question, before I turn it back over to Sister Janine, I wanted to close out with asking you, what has Islam done for you?
Oh, brother, I sit back and I think about what Islam has done for me. Now, before Islam, I wasn't one that was out doing, drinking and wilding out and all of that. I had some certain vices, but that wasn't any of the ones. But what Islam has done for me and doing for me, still currently doing for me, is that it's giving me an opportunity to be the best version of myself every day. Some days might be better than other days, but Islam has helped me be the kind of black man that I ain't caught out here on drugs, I ain't caught out here on other kind of crazy illicit behavior. What Islam is doing for me is helping me to be able to evolve and grow more and be not only a productive member of our nation, or striving to be a productive member of our nation, but it just helped me be able to have what has been promised. If we want to have life, have it more abundantly, well, when I submit to what's being given to us, it's giving me the kind of life that helps me be able to enjoy the time that we have. Enjoy, because life is, short. And so Islam is making me into a man, making me into a better husband. The teachings that come from Islam has helped me in many different areas financially from these teachings. But most importantly, what Islam has done for me and is doing for me is just helping me to understand and know what it means to be a brother and being the best example of a brother that I can be, striving to be that.
Yes, sir. All praise is due to Allah for Islam. And with that, we'll turn it back over to you, Sister Janine.
Thank you, Brother Wes. We're going to, I know it's winding down the hour, but we will ask a question. I'm going to ask the final two questions that we have from our audience in the chat. The first one is, what are your suggestions in fighting temptation? And he struggles to keep up with the 5 daily prayers. Any thoughts or suggestions?
Yes. We just come out of a study. It's called Building the Wheel. It's actually study guides 5, 6, 7, and 8. And in those studies, we learned about how important desire is and how desire feeds the wheel. First of all, the wheel is a gift that Almighty God gives to every one of us. And so if he's giving this gift to us of the wheel, so we all using our wheel all the time. It's just that are we using it for something that's good? So you mentioned the question about temptation. Well, if we go back and we look in the scriptures, when Jesus is tempted, and we see how, if in case we may not know, he's tempted by Satan 3 different times, and he overcomes the temptation. But I want to lift it up to say this. See, to be tempted, normally we ain't gonna be tempted unless it's something we want to do, unless it's something that we desire. So temptation is a thought, and it may be a thought towards something that we want. But the more we grow in love with striving to be right and do what's right, may not be all the way like that in the beginning. The more we grow that, we don't even desire to want to do what's other than right. And that's one of the things that'll help us. And then when we get over that temptation, guess what? There'll probably be another one waiting for us after that, because this is one of the ways that God is strengthening us. So Allah is strengthening us through tests and through trials. It's going to help us, as the Holy Quran says in Surah 29, do men think they will believe? Do men think they will be left alone on saying they believe and will not be tried? And certainly Allah tries them so that he may know those who are true and he may know the liars. Well, the minister came back and said, Allah already knows that, but it's the God in us. So the temptation, if any of us get tempted, we tempted often. I'm tempted still today with certain things. It could be something that I shouldn't eat.
Right.
But when we let logic overcome that, and that's when we that's when we become overcomers. The prayers, if we're not up to 5 and not at the 5, well, here's what I would say: hey, work on the get master 2 down, and then master 3 down. Now, I know we should do all 5, but if we at the point when we're saying we're not at that yet, then just work on 2 of them. Work on that early morning prayer. Work on making sure we pray before we go to bed. Work on afternoon prayer. And then before you know it, we can gradually get back. Now, we should strive to get all of them done. But if someone is just having a challenge with that, it's all about the will, building the will and being able to overcome whatever's stopping us from doing it.
Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. And our final question before we go into announcements. The question is in the chat from Muhammad Hamdullah. Why is it so important to understand our culture in the Nation of Islam and in Islam in general?
I want to make sure I understand that, right? Well, if we look at the degenerate culture that our people are in now, look at the degenerate culture of this country. See, we're taught that Islam comes when all else fails. We got people that don't know what to call themselves anymore. If I get a wedding invitation to mail, I got to kind of check to make sure who it's from, because making sure that that it's not 2 of the same sex, not throwing off shade or anything like that. But I'm saying it's just an interesting time. You even got a group of people that's running around and they say they identify as animals, and so they dressing up in animal costumes and all of that. Now, this is not mockery, making fun, or any of that. When we look at the degenerate culture that we are part of and that our people are in, see, it's important to understand. See, our culture is about refinement. Our culture is about striving to live on a higher plane. But in order to have culture, we have to know what our teachings are.
That's right.
So the culture of Islam teaching modesty, the culture of Islam teaching righteousness, the culture of Islam teaching us to strive to be a reflection. So we become something totally different in this dark world. When I say dark in terms of, the deeds that's being done. In the Nation of Islam, we got a star in our flag that Master Fard Muhammad gave to us. And that 5-pointed star, we're taught that stars justify Allah's creation. They shine in the darkness of the night and they justify Allah's creation. And so it is when we begin to take on to this teaching, we become like stars that should be shining in the darkness of the world. And in our culture, when someone enters and they see something that's different, opposites attract. So the culture of the Nation of Islam, the way we dress, the culture of Islam, the way we talk. See, the culture, it was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had us calling each other brother and calling each other sister. So it's important to understand that. What does culture mean? What is the refinement around it? What does it all tie into? The more we can get into understanding that, we'll see how different it is. The culture of the nation, how different it is from what's being offered by the decadence of this world.
Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. Well, we definitely thank you for answering our questions, and I know the audience thanks you as well. I know that you were able to answer a lot of their questions, and we definitely appreciate it. And we definitely appreciate you coming on. We know we would love to have you back. We love hearing from our ministers, our youth, just everyone in the nation, because it really helps our people. And we're finding that we're definitely reaching people just to give them insight what Islam has done and doing, and to see the different backgrounds of our people and to get various stories. It really does our nation good. So we definitely thank you for that. And family, we have a few announcements for our audience. If you like what you heard today, and I'm sure you did, you're invited to study with the Nation of Islam to learn the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad as taught by his chief helper, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. You can go to www.noi.org/go study, or you can go to www.noi.org/join. We have weekly webcasts on every Sunday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, or you're welcome to join the various mosques and study groups in your city. Final Call Radio, download it on all your devices, take it with you on the go. Student Minister Corey talked about earlier how you got to be attentive to what you listen to, and that's definitely something we need to listen to as we're going about our day, especially when we see everything that's going on in the world. So Final Call Radio, download it on all of your devices. Speaking of Final Call, the Final Call newspaper is in your city every week. You see the cover right there. It says The Bloodshedder. If you really want to know what's going on, if you want to hear the truth and not the truth that's produced by the mass media to deter your attention, you look no further than you get the Final Call newspaper. You can also get the Final Call subscription for our brothers and sisters that are behind bars. They can lock them up physically, but they cannot lock them up mentally. So you can get a Final Call subscription for them as well. And you can get a Final Call from one of our brothers out on the street. And last but not least, do you want a book that greatly empowers your child and showcases their self-worth? Look no further than I Never Knew I'm All That, Book 1. This highly anticipated book written by our host, Brother Donald Muhammad, can give you affirmation for your child's needs. There's so many other books that's not good for our children, so we need books that empower our children and really tap into the God that's been inside them. So with that, I will turn it over to Brother Wesley, who will give us our Muhammad moment, and then we will close out and go to our Afternotes. Brother Wesley?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you again, Brother Student Minister Corey Muhammad, for joining us on What Has Islam Done for Me. The chat has been going off. Everyone has been enjoying it, and I'm sure those that may not have commented or just watching have enjoyed it as well. So we appreciate you sharing your journey to Islam and in Islam, and being able to inspire others. We definitely want to thank our co-host this evening as well, Sister Janine, as well as Brother West. Thank you both for the questions that you all provided. And thank you also for those in the chat that posed questions as well. I'm sure the questions that were posed in the chat are on the thoughts and minds of others as well. So I'm sure the encouragement that the brother gave to us is helping someone as well. We also want to thank Brother Donald Muhammad for putting together this platform of What Has Islam Done for Me. We cannot go without and thanking Brother Donald without thanking his wife as well, his support and doing all that she does behind the scenes to support Brother Donald Muhammad as well. So we thank you as well, Sister Cynthia Muhammad. And we definitely have to thank Master Fard Muhammad for coming 9,000 miles to save that which was lost. We thank him for raising the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, the eternal leader of the nation of Islam, the living and exalted Christ. And we definitely thank them both for leaving in our midst the divine leader, teacher, and guide, reminder, and warner, the Messiah in our midst today, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Without those three, we would not know of what Islam could do. And we definitely, with those three, we now see what Islam is doing for us all. All praise is due to Allah. Again, thank the audience for coming on as well, and being able to provide their support and your support by coming on and watching and tuning in every week to What Has Islam Done for Me. We thank you. But don't go anywhere. We're going to get into our Muhammad moment tonight, which is coming from a lecture entitled The Knowledge of God and Self. This is part 2 of a lecture series that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan put together. This was delivered March 19th, 2001. This lecture can be found and purchased, on store.finalcall.com. So feel free to go and visit and get this lecture and many lectures by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan to continue your study and continue to build yourself up and understand what Islam can do for you as well. So let's enjoy tonight's Muhammad moment.
You have judged me to be in error. He said, respite me, delay my exposure. Don't expose me. Delay it. Give me a respite until the day when they are raised. Raised, meaning elevated from one state or stage of knowledge or ignorance to a stage of knowledge. Respite me till the day when they are raised. Raised from what? And by what means shall they be raised? And then Allah says in the Quran, you are of the respited ones. I'm going to delay your exposure. Now look at what Satan tells God. He said, good. Well, all right. I'm going to come after them. Who is them? Your people. I'm going to come after them in your straight path. That's how I'm going to get them. I'm coming in the nature that you gave them. I'm coming in the truth that you gave them. I'm coming in the path that you asked them to walk on. I'm coming in the straight path. And I'll come to them from before them, from behind them. I'm going to come from before them as an outright opposer. Then I'll follow them up with lies and deceit. I'll come from their right side posing as a friend. I'll come at them from their left side. I'm going to have them so confused that all of them will be ungrateful. And then he says, I'm going to make them all deviate. 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 And look at what Satan said. I'm going to make them all. That's a big word, man. All. All. You going to get them all, Satan? Then Allah says to Satan, well, whoever follows you, I'm going to fill hell with you all. Meaning, I'm going to get you, Satan, and I'm going to get all your followers. I'm going to kill all of you. Then in another place, Allah tells Satan, you will get all except my purified ones. Now wait, I want to talk to you a minute. Because I know you think that's you. And I think that's natural that you would think that's you. But don't put that garment on yet. Let's check out what your underclothes look like. Don't put on the garment of purification and you got dirty drawers. So I'm going to take off the garment and let's look at the drawers. And let's see what we really are underneath this crap that we bring before the world, posing as righteous people. I hope this mic, oh yeah, it's working this week. Now, brothers and sisters, look. He said, I will get all except my possessive pronoun, purified ones. Not that you purified yourself, but purified is the past participle of the verb to purify. That means somebody is acting as a purifier, and you got to be in his favor for him to pluck you out of the mess that's out here, to purify you from Satan so that he can use you in his army to destroy Satan's world.
I sound like Brother Wesley, you're on mute.
Oh,
You're on mute the
good.
whole
I'm just going and going. Praise be to Allah. Thank you for letting me know.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody. That was our Muhammad moment. But let me read the bio since I was reading it to myself. Let me read your bio one more time. Sister Zoya Musawwir is 17 years old. She joined the nation at 16. She is one of 6 siblings. She's a senior in high school, and she attended Muhammad University of Islam and Asiatic Minds. After Zoya's 12th grade year, her plan is to attend higher education at Morgan State University to become an architect. She loves to read and build logos during her free time. So again, assalamu alaikum, my sister.
Walaikum salam.
All praises due to Allah. We appreciate you coming on the Afternotes. We just have a few questions for you. The first question will be, what do you enjoy about your nation?
Yes, sir. For me, I would say I really enjoyed the positive confidence that the nation gives me. There's a lot of youth involvement in the nation, which I love. Like that allows me to feel capable to. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. The youth involvement, it allows me to feel capable to do it allows me to feel capable of doing what needs to be done for my nation and others, and it makes me feel like I'm a part of something historical. Well, we're living history every day, but something greater, if that makes sense. You can ask like anybody that knows me really well. Like a couple months ago, I probably wouldn't have done something like this. Came on this show, but I just constantly remind myself that I'm doing this for a greater purpose, like Allah's plan, and it's something greater than myself. So yeah, just enjoy the confidence, sir.
Yes, ma'am. All praises due to Allah. Next, what have you learned from the Nation of Islam and your journey so far into Islam?
Yes, sir. So just when y'all were speaking with Brother Corey earlier, he had mentioned to do for self, and I've learned that I've learned and seen that the only people that can really help ourselves is ourselves, if that makes sense. The nation is a self-funded nation, and I can say that knowing that it's possible to thrive while getting funds from ourselves, that really motivates and drives me for what I want to do in the future. Knowing that I don't have to go to, our enemy for anything that I need because we are a self-funded nation. And, I think that's just a really powerful, big thing for the youth to know that we can rely on ourselves to do what we want to do in life.
All praise is due to Allah, especially nowadays where influence is heavy from the world and everyone is following each other. It's definitely good to understand that you can stand on your own and you have a nation in which really supports doing that as well, especially in doing things that are righteous. All praise is due to Allah. My final question, this is what has Islam done for me as the platform, but I want to ask you, what is Islam doing for you right now?
Yes, sir. I was actually going to rephrase the question to say what Islam was doing instead of what has done because I'm still, very, very new to the nation. Of course, I was born in the nation, but I'm very new to, being registered. But what it is doing for me is showing that there's a lot of opportunity and unity. It has shown me that I have the ability to do what I want, and there's going to be people that look like me to teach me how to do it. And if there isn't people to teach me how to do it that look like me, I can go and learn myself. Or I can learn from our enemy, like the minister had taught us. He said, learn from the enemy and take it back to your nation. And pretty much that's pretty much what Islam is doing for me. It's teaching me that I can give back to my nation and take back what's ours and give it back to, everyone else. But it's teaching me that I can be a teacher too. Because I've always, well, not always, but since the 3rd grade, I've only had Black teachers. And, I love every single one of my teachers. I could probably name all of their names. But I don't know. So they're teaching me that I can give back to my nation, teach my nation, and pour back into them.
All praise is due to Allah. We definitely thank you for sharing your journey thus far, sharing what Islam is doing for you, what you've learned from it, and definitely what you enjoy about the Nation of Islam. Because your example, what you shared, we definitely want to encourage those who are watching, who are younger, who may not have made the decision yet to join the Nation of Islam, are curious about joining the Nation of Islam. We appreciate you coming on and expressing and really just showing and displaying what it means to be a Muslim in the Nation of Islam and a striving student as well. So we appreciate you coming on Afternotes with us on What Has Islam Done for Me. So we appreciate you joining on, and we thank everyone for sticking around as well to see our sister and hear our sister as well. And we pray that what she has shared encourages and inspires you as well as we continue in this great path of Islam. So thank you so much, Sister Zoya.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You're very welcome. All praise is due to Allah. At this moment, again, thank everyone for joining us on What Has Islam Done for Me. Again, thank everyone for coming on, supporting our brother student minister Corey Muhammad. Before we step away as well, we want to make sure that we announce this Sunday, next Sunday coming up, August 18th. Brother student minister Corey Muhammad will be visiting Richmond, Virginia, Muhammad Mosque number 24. This is the flyer for that lecture as well, entitled By Way of Deception, the Truth Shall Set You Free. Again, this will be Sunday, August 18th at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So feel free, if you are in the Richmond area or are definitely willing to travel to the Richmond area, we would love to have you at Muhammad Mosque number 24. So definitely come on, bring one with you as well. So all praises due to Allah. Again, thank everyone for coming on to WHID-FM. We appreciate the support. We appreciate you listening and watching, supporting. Continue to share this out to those as well as we strive to encourage everyone and showing what Islam is doing for us and how it can also help you as well. So all praises due to Allah. I would like to now turn our program over to Brother West to close us out in prayer.
Sorry, I keep finding myself on mute again. But yes, sir, with that we close on prayer. Attention prayer. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. Assalamu alaikum, family.